We won't be coming back with the same group, just not good enough. That was a quote by Tom Fitzgerald. Luke Hughes' extension is my number one priority, also said by Tom Fitzgerald. Well, we are in August. Hughes still does not have a contract. And honestly, the Devils, while they've made some moves, there's nothing that really gets me out of my seat, if that makes sense. I break it all down on today's episode of Locked On Devils. There's so much to talk about. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here at the Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play announcer, Devils are our pucks, pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've done an episode by myself. As you guys know, I was out of the country the last few weeks on vacation. In the previous episode, I interviewed former Devils goalie Keith Kincaid. If you've not checked out that episode, please pause this one and give it a listen. Really enjoyed listening to Kincaid and him reminiscing on the 2018 playoff run. What's on the agenda for today's episode? We're going to talk about the Devils and their time frame, because a lot of people say, oh, the Devils are young, they'll figure it out, they have all the talent in the world, they can certainly reach the next level. Well, I'm just going to say this. Yes, they are young. Yes, they have a lot of potential, but you don't have forever. And I want to share my thoughts on that because I've seen a lot of people discuss it on social media. But to kick off today's episode, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is Luke Hughes' contract, or lack thereof. Let's do a little bit of a recap. I was away on vacation for a couple of weeks in Europe. I moved out of my apartment in Florida. I am currently in my East Coast studio recording this episode, and still, Luke Hughes has not signed an extension. It's a good thing he is not eligible to be offer sheeted by a different team. Otherwise, that's going to create way more conflict. But it's been over, 40 days since Tom Fitzgerald told the media that re-signing Luke Hughes was his main priority. Nothing has come into fruition, and I just want to share my thoughts on that. So let's start with this theory, and I'm just speculating on this. I don't really have any insider information on the matter. This is just my perspective. It has to be a term issue, right? Because I think we saw a similar situation with Dawson Mercer last year, where maybe Mercer's camp wanted more stability. Tom Fitzgerald sort of wanted to give Mercer a shorter bridge deal so he could prove it. They came to a 3-year agreement in September, just before training camp. It could be a similar situation with Luke Hughes. You never know. Now, I talked about it in a bunch of prior episodes earlier in the summer, but if you need a refresher, I think it's in the Devils' best interest to not give him a bridge deal, because if Luke develops in the way that we are anticipating, he might demand a much higher salary when he becomes a UFA in 2 years if you give him that bridge deal. And that creates all sorts of conflict. Remember, Nico Hischier has 2 years remaining on his contract. So do you really want to worry about Luke Hughes and Nico Hischier in that hypothetical scenario? I think you got to sign Luke Hughes for a lengthy extension. So that way you have him, you have Jack, and you could possibly pursue Quinn Hughes when he's set to hit the open market in 2027. A lot can change for the Canucks, but I've talked about it on this show. Jim Rutherford has revealed that Quinn wants to play with his brothers. So I think Fitzgerald should put himself into a comfortable position to have both Hughes brothers locked up for a lengthy period of time. And then you could pursue Quinn in 2027 if and when that is an option. I tried asking around, what's the update on Luke Hughes' contract? We've been talking about it in the Pucks and Pitchforks group chat. For what it's worth, I reached out to Paul Cotter. Cotter responded by saying, I would tell you if I knew something. So I'm trying my best to get more information, but that's where we're at for the time being. I really thought that the Devils were waiting for July 1st to really get the ball rolling when it came to the offseason, because I thought players like Andre Palat, Dawson Mercer, maybe Dougie Hamilton would be on borrowed time, because Palat and Hamilton, they have modified no movement clauses. So that gives the Devils some more freedom, because they had originally full-blown no movement clauses. So I think the Devils were waiting for the number of teams to reduce. And for Dawson Mercer, he has no clauses attached to his contract. The Devils could theoretically move him whenever they feel like it, but all three of those players still remain on the Devils roster. I really thought Palat would be shown the door, free up some money, and then you could extend Luke Hughes for a lengthy extension, but obviously it hasn't come to that. So I know Luke will be back with the Devils come next season. He doesn't really have many options. He's not eligible to be offer sheeted by a different team. It's just going to come down to, can the front office and Luke Hughes come in the middle in terms of an agreement? And it might happen shortly before training camp. You never know. It's not like the Devils are pressed for time. And speaking of players still on the Devils roster, if I had to make an educated guess, what you see is what you get. I think this is the roster that the Devils are going to roll with to begin the 2025-2026 season. Look, the Devils are going to be a playoff team because the Metropolitan Division isn't all that strong. I don't think the Devils are going to have any issue getting into the playoffs if they remain healthy. But I don't know if this is a team that can compete for a Stanley Cup. I really hope they prove me wrong, but I do have my concerns, and I'm going to talk about that in the next segment. But before we segue into that, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race, maybe Jared Goff for the Detroit Lions, crown your champion in August, maybe the Detroit Lions, or parlay your division winner dark horses, maybe the New York Giants. I don't know. You got Cam Scatterboo from Arizona State. Maybe he could surprise some people. Let just be realistic. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Okay. Obviously, Luke Hughes still has not signed his extension. That's the big news that everybody is waiting for. Everybody is waiting for that social media post from the Devils saying that Luke Hughes has extended for this amount of years to these terms. We're all waiting on pins and needles. I myself am getting a little restless, but there was another big piece of news that happened within the last few weeks. Ryan Novozinsky is back. As you guys remember, he previously covered the Devils for NJ.com. This past season, he was covering the New York Giants. He got promoted, but he obviously couldn't stay away from the rink too long, because now he is back to being the beat reporter for the Devils. And I think I speak for a lot of the Devils discourse Welcome back, Novo. You were dearly missed. No offense to his original successor, but I really do love Noah Zinski and his work and what he puts out there. And he's sort of the Shams Charania for the Devils. He'll always be the first one to break news, rumors, speculation, wherever the case might be. I always love sitting by him in the press box. He's admitted to me that he's listened to my show. He's a friend of the show. Hope to have him back on in the not so distant future. Once again, welcome back, Novo. And he recently published his first Devils article in months. And I must say, I enjoyed reading it, but I noticed a snippet in that article that I found somewhat compelling, and I want to discuss it on this show. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to read the full article, but here's a brief snippet. The Devils have no excuse not to be Stanley Cup contenders this season. With a young core that is locked up to some of the best value contracts in the league, the result of the season could make or break careers in Newark, on the ice, and in the front office. New Jersey has, after all, advanced past the first round of the playoffs once in the last 13 seasons. Oh boy. Yeah, he is right, because let's see, 2012, the Devils made it to the Stanley Cup final. Then they had that lengthy drought of missing the playoffs. They made it in 2018, but they got gentlemen swept by the Lightning. 2023, they made it to the second round of the playoffs, but they were manhandled by the Hurricanes. And this past season, they made the playoffs, but due to injuries and being very depleted, they only mustered up one win against the Hurricanes in the first round. So yeah, when it comes to the playoffs, it's a little scarce for the Devils, but they still have a lot of talent on their roster. And why did I find that snippet interesting? Well, I saw some people on the Devils discourse talking about, could this be the last chance for the Devils to really do something? Is time winding down? Is their window starting to shrink? Well, when looking at some of their contracts, it would be really hard for the Devils to blow it up, if that makes sense. Let's just say the Devils' season is in the gutter. They're going to miss the playoffs, and it's not really looking all that good. It's looking pretty bleak. Timo Meier is here long-term. Jack Hughes is here long-term. Jesper Bratt is here long-term. The only concern that I would have with the forward group would be Nico Hischier, because similar to Quinn Hughes, he will be a UFA in 2027. And Nico has said that he loves being the captain for the Devils. He seems to love the organization. He seems to love the fans, but I guarantee you, he loves winning even more. So if he doesn't think this is a good situation for him to win, Nico could be gone theoretically. I'm not trying to scare anyone, and keep in mind, I'm just speculating. This is just a hypothetical scenario. Nico could be out of there if he doesn't think the Devils could win in the future, or if he doesn't think that the team can build around him. We saw it during this free agency. Look what happened with the Toronto Maple Leafs. They had so much talent on the roster. Austin Matthews, William Nylander, John Tavares, and obviously Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner was a UFA, and he decided to sign with the Vegas Golden Knights. Honestly, I can't imagine Marner in a different sweater, and seeing him in a Golden Knights uniform, it's definitely going to be an eyesore at first, but it goes to show you that players can leave at any given point. Or look at Brad Marchand. He was the captain for the Bruins for the past few years. He was the successor of Patrice Bergeron. He was traded to the divisional rival Panthers, and he played a big part in them winning the Stanley Cup. The point I'm just trying to make is that notable players who have played on one team for their entire career, they can also leave. And I think Devils fans know this all too well. Martin Brodeur in a Blues uniform. I really hope Nico is still happy with the Devils organization 2 years from now. We'll see what happens. But digressing a little bit, Andre Palat, he'll be a UFA in 2027. Dawson Mercer, RFA. Stephen Nason, UFA in 2027. That would be a little interesting to see. Can Nason still provide for the Devils, even though he would be in his mid-30s at the time? McDermott, UFA. Glass, UFA. Cotter, he'll be a restricted free agent next offseason. Then when we look on the defensive side of things, Dougie Hamilton, he still has 3 seasons remaining. Pesci here long-term. Brendan Dillon still has this year and next year. Kovacevic here long-term. Siegenthaler, 3 years remaining. Seamus Casey, Shimon Nemitz, Luke Hughes, young defenseman. Casey still on his ELC. Nemitz, final year of his ELC. Hughes, please sign an extension sooner rather than later. The big question mark out of all the players on the Devils are their goaltenders. Jacob Markstrom, 1 year remaining on his deal. He'll become a UFA in 2026. Jake Allen signed a lengthy extension at a very, very cheap price. He took the hometown discount, and that contract will not come back to bite the Devils because if Allen starts to slow down, you could put him on the LTIR, you can send him down, you can put him on waivers, you could trade him without much repercussion. There's not really an issue there. But Markstrom and Allen are both 35 years of age, so that's definitely something you got to factor in, which is they're not getting any younger. And when it comes to the Devils in general, I am tired of hearing the excuses saying that, oh, they're young, they're inexperienced, they'll start to mesh together, just give them time. No. Jesper Bratt and Nico Hischier, they're closing in on 10 years of NHL service. Jack Hughes has a few years of NHL service. Timo Meier, same way. Dougie Hamilton, same way. You also got past champions on this roster. Jake Allen, Paul Cotter, Curtis McDermott, Andre Palat. All of them have hoisted a Stanley Cup at some point. My thing is the Devils have enough experience to know what to anticipate when you get to the playoffs and how much of a different animal it is. 2023, I would give them the benefit of the doubt and say, yeah, they're young, but they need to learn from this. Look, I don't think this season in particular is the last dance for the Devils, but if they don't perform really well, maybe Tom Fitzgerald will start feeling the hot seat a little bit. The Devils still have a few years remaining when it comes to their big name players and contracts, but I do agree with Nova, which is the excuses are starting to wear off a little bit. I think the Devils definitely need to take that leap forward, but honestly, with the group that they currently have, is this really a playoff contending team? Because one of their biggest issues was depth. You add Connor Brown, he's solid, but will he actually be a big-time replacement? He's supposed to replace Eric Halla's role. And then Evgeny Dodonov, there are rumors saying that this could be his final dance. This could be his farewell tour. He's getting up there in age. Yeah, he scored 20 goals last year, but he's not getting any younger. Let's be real. Markstrom and Allen, same way. They're getting up there in age. So you might lose some key assets in the not so distant future. My thing for the Devils is that I really do want them to take that next leap forward. But honestly, with the team that the Devils have constructed, it's almost the same team that they had last year, if I'm being completely honest. So you get Brown to replace Haula. You get Dodonov to add some more depth scoring. I really hope he can repeat the success he had last year in Dallas. But it's just like, what else has changed? Kovacevic is going to be on the LTIR to begin this year. You still have one of the best goaltending tandems in the NHL, but they're also older. The big thing is, can the Devils stay healthy? That's my thing. So I really hope the Devils can do a lot of incredible things, but I'll be honest, this team looks eerily similar to last year. There hasn't been that big move that's really gotten me out of my seat. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, but to no avail. And I knew free agency would be a little difficult for Devils because they weren't going to be in the running for Marner. They weren't going to be in the running for Marchand. They weren't going to be in the running for Bennett, just based on their financial situation. And Fitzy didn't move Palat to clear up some cap space. So once they get Luke Hughes extended, that might be your 2025, 2026 Devils. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think the Devils are good enough to contend and go deeper in the playoffs? On paper, they should be, but based on what happened last year, even before Jack Hughes' injury, I'm a little concerned, if I'm being completely honest. I could be wrong, and I hope they do prove me wrong, but those are just my critiques. All right, before we close out today's episode, let me tell you guys about Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. I've actually used Indeed before to book myself some play-by-play gigs. I use it to this very day. I still get email notifications. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support my show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. Before I close out today's episode, first a couple of shout outs. Shout out to Keith Kincaid, now friend of the show, for winning Best Goaltender in the 3 Ice Tournament. And shout out to Devils legend, Mr. Devil himself, Ken Danico, for being named Coach of the Year in the 3 Ice Tournament. Best of luck to everybody participating in that tournament. I hear it's a lot of fun. Maybe I should start watching the games a little bit more, but just wanted to give those shout outs. All right. Time to close out today's episode with this. It's been a very long offseason for the Devils, and unfortunately, nothing really to be all that excited about, if I'm being completely honest, because it's just like, all right, what are some of the moves you made? You got rid of Hala. Okay, that was a good first start. They re-signed Jake Allen. Great. I thought Allen would leave for a team like Edmonton that is in desperate need of goaltending. You got Connor Brown. Solid, not spectacular. You got Dodonov. All right, solid, not spectacular, but that adds more scoring depth. But what else can the Devils do? Like, what's the longevity here? I've been somewhat disappointed, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like I said in the prior segment, I don't want to be a negative Nancy. I really don't. In fact, I try to be optimistic, but is it me or does it feel like there were just some broken promises here? Like Fitzgerald saying that they're not running it back with the same team as last year. I'm like, okay, great. Does that mean Palat is gone? Does that mean Hamilton is gone? Does that mean Mercer is gone? No, it means players like Lazar, Bastion, Tatar, Dowling, they're gone. Okay, but that doesn't really make or break the Devils here. Like if you brought back like Lazar on a 1-year deal, I'd be okay with that. But it's just like, okay, they're replaceable, but it doesn't seem like the Devils have brought in that piece that can really push them over the edge. And that's just where I have my concerns. I'm going to remain an open book. I'm excited to see what the Devils roll out this season. I'm looking forward to Luke Hughes' contract. But just to close out today's episode, it's just longevity. Some of the older players who are big contributors on the Devils already, like their goalies, what are you going to do with them? Markstrom needs a new contract at the conclusion of this season. And also, is there another move that Fitzy can make that can really put the Devils over the edge? Look, it's August, and just because it's August and the season's right around the corner doesn't mean the Devils have to stop making moves. I think Erik Karlsson was traded around this time a couple off seasons ago. I could be wrong, but just putting out a suggestion here. That's what I want everyone to take into consideration. But let me know your thoughts. what do you think of the Devils offseason so far? What are your thoughts on the Luke Hughes contract? When do you think it's going to get sorted out? And what's the dilemma? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.